They're guys. They do magic. They are the magic guys.
So what do you think the best way to handle a heckle is?
Are we talking show or are we talking roving?
Roving's easy. You just, because you're working for a small group of people. If he's enough of a dick, he can go to the next group. Right? But I'm talking a show. You're on stage. You've got 7,000 people. No, you've got 300 or 400 people watching you, whatever.
Okay. You're on stage and you're on the spot.
Someone's like, you're doing a trick. You just produced a bottle of wine, and someone shouts out, "When's the magic start?"
Yep. Yep.
Right.
I've had, I can remember a few times where I've had heckles like that were pretty brutal. At the time, it felt. Like I've literally been doing an effects, and again, like I've mentioned in previous podcasts, like Christmas time just brings out the drunken people. So I'm doing a routine and someone's like, "This is shit." Like they just said it because they're so oblivious and drunk, and they think they're saying it to their friend, but like I can obviously directly hear them. And I learned a lesson then, because I was trying to do this effect that was quite procedural, and they probably did think it was shit because the magic moment hadn't happened. And then once it did happen, everyone was impressed, and they didn't say that anymore. But in that instance, for example, I ignored them and kept going.
Okay.
And then they didn't say anything else. I think you have to know when to pick your fights, because sometimes you can just leave it and they'll just know, okay, if I heckle, he's not going to respond. That's boring now. I'm not going to say anything. But sometimes it's obviously called for. I definitely like to take the aggressive approach. Like a heckle I had, which was indirect heckling, was someone's phone rang with a video call. And I think you were at that show. I was in a parlor show, which is so intimate. There's only 30 people in this room. And the front row, 5 minutes into the show starting, their phone starts ringing at full volume. And I can see it's a video call because it's making that sound that Facebook does. It's going doodle-lip, doodle-lip, whatever it is. And at that moment, I'm like, I have to address it in some way. So I pick up the phone and I answer it and just make that person a part of the show. I get them to say hello to everyone, and I give them back their phone. And that just lets everyone know, like, if your phone rings, I'm going to answer it. So that was like an indirect heckle. But I think you just got to roll with it. But to answer your question a bit more simply, like if someone just shouts out something, I'll usually have a few ready to go lines that I'll throw out there at them. And I never really like have a go at them to the point where everyone's like booing them or whatever. Like comics are great at that, like ripping on them, right? And then if they're heckling me but they're on stage, then I will just manage them in a way that like their heckling will actually work to my favor and fool them even more, and people will just think, wow, that show never happens like that, but we got to see it in this really unique way because that guy was being really difficult,
Yeah.
How do you handle hecklers?
Well, there's two ways. So if I'm at a gig and I'm doing a show, it's a similar approach to yours. I try to keep it super friendly and blah, 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 I don't try to make them feel like idiots. But on the streets, however, man, I love it. You can just have so much fun with it. Like, there was a game that us street performers used to play with each other. So we'd go and perform. And the way that street performing works is there's a pitch, and this is a spot where everyone works. You build your crowd, and there's a queue of people waiting. And we'd play games where like one of them would heckle you, but you've never been heckled until you've been heckled by a performer, and you'll be like middle of the show, like I'll deliver this joke, and maybe the joke doesn't quite land. And then someone would like throw a phone book into the crowd, and it would land like in front of me. And then they'd be like, read it. It's got better material than you.
Wow. That's awesome.
They would just do stupid stuff like this.
Heckling each other.
But because of it, you end up developing some seriously thick skin. So it's very hard for me to ever feel challenged, I guess, by a spectator. There are some, obviously. But for the most part, they'll say something dumb, like what I said to you, like, when does the magic start? Whenever you want it to. Whenever you stop drinking, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a whole bunch of things, like, but there are some on the streets you get some aggressive hecklers.
Tell us that. Like that's the juice.
Yeah, I once had a show where this I don't want to say that religion is bad, right? I don't want to say.
We probably shouldn't say anything about it at all.
But in this particular instance, this person might have been taking an aggressive approach to religion.
Okay.
And they took it as they came into my show and they basically were calling me like a heathen, like I was sent by Satan to trick these people, right? Which is I don't think a good representation of religion, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, and
That's
so,
a one-off.
Yeah, and so he was doing this like an absolute madman to the point where he got physically aggressive and like staunched up to me in the middle of my show, and I was like, I don't know, I have no idea what to do right now. I was quite confused.
Damn.
And so the only thing I could think of was I got my water bottle. I started flicking water on. It's like, get out of here. Get out of here, man.
All right, for all you performers out there, just have a squirt gun ready and just wet people that are trying to
because he
heckle
was
you.
being like super aggressive.
True,
and I was like,
true.
And I just had the water.
Like,
I was
what
like,
do you do?
get out of here. Away with you.
Wow.
And you know what the funny thing was? It worked. Because that person didn't know what to do. They were like, what is happening right now?
Huh.
And now here's a good one for you. When
Better be good.
we were just talking about mentalism. We were talking about Darren Brown. And Darren Brown once completed his show, and he was on his way home wearing his like crispy suit, looking like a rich, English boy, right? And he's going along, and this guy was drunk and was like trying to arc up to him. And his response to that guy, so the guy's like, "What are you looking at? I'm gonna smash you," really angry. And his response to that guy was, "The walls outside of my house are only 4 feet tall." And the guy's like, "What?" And it was enough to throw his train of thought off.
Just
that
full
he wasn't
confusion.
angry anymore. He was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, seriously, the guy told me they were 5 foot, but they're only 4 foot. It's funny because in America, the walls are really tall, but here they're quite low."
Just throw some confusion at him. Confusion bomb.
That's almost the same principle as me just randomly flicking the water, because the guy's like, "Oh, you're a devil," and then I'm like, get away. And he's like, "What?"
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What about our friend Joel Fenton, great street performer? We mentioned him before. He told me that it's mandatory for him to get punched in the face at least once every 2 years, street performing.
Wow.
And he's been punched in the face at least twice. And he told me one of the times was because he was performing, and he says a joke in his show. He makes a joke about a dead kid.
Oh no.
Do you know that joke? He's like, he basically gets a kid to help him, and he's like, "Don't worry, you'll be fine. Just do it like the last person did." And they say, that person they didn't fall over.
You can stand here on the bloodstains of yesterday's volunteer.
Yeah, he makes a joke about, apparently, he makes a bad joke about a kid helping him in the last show. Now that kid's dead. And then, a drunk guy came up to him and said, "You can't say that about a kid." Boom! Clocked him right in the face. And it was like late at night when he was busking in South Bank. And then he's also had like a drug addict come up and steal like his blade that he juggles with and then run off. And like, that's some crazy shit that gives you such a thick skin, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, you get those sorts of things as well.
Busking.
I've had fisticuffs, definitely, in the middle of a show. That was funny. I don't even know exactly what happened. So one of the ones that I do recall vividly was I was doing street performing and I was making some money, and this homeless guy just came out of nowhere and said, "What are you doing here? You're not even homeless." That was his approach. Like I don't belong there because I'm not homeless.
Wow.
And I was like, "Yeah, I'm just doing some shows, entertaining some people." And he goes, "Yeah, but you're taking all the money. So now that's his thought was, that I was like out there street performing and stealing all the money, and that's why he's homeless."
It's your fault.
Yeah, it's my fault. Anyway,
He's homeless.
I just ignored him. And I start doing this show. And then he comes back with like 2 other homeless guys. Like a little gang of homeless people, right?
Wow.
It was so weird too, because then they've got that shitty dollar slushie. I don't know what it is with homeless people and like slushies, but they all have them in Brisbane at least.
Okay.
Anyway,
Cheap,
he
and they cool you
throws
down.
this slushie at me, like full, like it explodes all over me. And you know what? I didn't even give him the time of day. I let it explode all over me, and I just kept moving on with the show. I just completely ignored him. And I finished the show, made the money, and quickly put it away. And then these 3 homeless guys approach me, and it just breaks out into a fight right there on the street.
Like they fought each other.
No, they fight me.
Oh, they fought you?
Yeah, they fought me.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Who would like to see Jason
Granted, they-
Mayer busking with some fisticuffs at the end of the show? That's a show that people want to see.
But the public came to my aid because they had just watched me do a show and they know that I'm not a bad fella. So they jumped in and helped. But it was just so crazy that this happened because he thought I was somehow
Stealing
the
money.
reason he's homeless is because I'm doing magic on the streets.
So to encourage people to start street busking, don't worry. The worst thing that could happen is your audience will fight you.